So now we're moving on from chapter 1 and we are in chapter 2, which is called A Ross Between Two Thorns. And from the quote that I'm just about to read, Ross is referring to Douglas Ross, who is the founder of Evolution Media. And his quote is, I look back now and realize that getting fired from Big Brother was the most important moment in my career, which Douglas Ross, founder of Evolution Media, stated. So I'm guessing just based on where we are chronologically and the changes that were made earlier on in the history of BBUS, I'm assuming that this is referring to Big Brother 1. So on to the book, or the chapter. Evolution Media is tapped to produce American America's inaugural season of Big Brother. Okay, so this is the production company of Big Brother US. I get it now. The company has its own hit, Big Bug Juice, airing on the Disney Channel, which chronicles the real-life adventures of children at summer camp. And the mall told me that our style, our brand, our way of storytelling is what they hoped to achieve in Big Brother, recalls Evolution's founder Douglas Ross. Despite its popularity on the Disney Channel, Evolution is not the obvious choice to produce the show. That's what I'm thinking. One would expect a Hollywood heavyweight to get the job done due to Big Brother's hefty budget and presence on CBS, one of the big three networks. Buck Juice employs 65 to 75 crew members. Big Brother will demand double that. Brian Hale, who began his career at Evolution, likens the company in 2000 to a mom and pop shop, and fondly recalls working from its warehouse where nobody's had an office. It's this simplicity that catches the attention of Endemol executive Gary Carter. Carter, a key member of Endemol's international sales team, is tasked with finding an American production partner for Big Brother. He admires Douglas's down-to-earth demeanor, a refreshing departure from the Hollywood norm. Douglas was born to a working family class in the suburbs of Denver, Colorado. He establishes a small production company in the late 80s and spends several years working out of a single-car garage. It was a dump, but it was affordable. He recalls. Another reason why Douglas is chosen is because in December 1999, he travels to the Netherlands on his own dime to observe the country's ongoing Big Brother production. He does this to demonstrate his sincere interest in spearheading the American edition. It's the prospect of producing a big network show that initially draws him in, but after visiting the set and seeing the uniqueness of the format, he's hooked and more determined than ever to get the job. Greg Stewart, Evolution's longtime CFO, indicates that no other US production company made the effort to visit the Dutch on their home turf. Everyone else was so fucking arrogant, he says. Endemol has subsidiaries across Europe in 2000, but it's not yet active in North America. That's why it needs a local production partner. Evolution, based in Los Angeles, has the necessary infrastructure, bank accounts, office space, industry workers on speed dial, and an intricate understanding of sorry, the domestic television landscape to hit the ground running, and with only a few months until showtime, Endemol cannot go at it alone. Wow, I didn't realize how little time they had regarding this. Nevertheless, the Dutch giant will exert as much control over the production as possible. Demol wants Big Brother US to be a carbon copy of the successful Dutch, German, and Spanish broadcasters. And we all know how that worked. So, anyways, onto his quote. I received a couple of three-ring binders with over 1,000 pages of instructions on how to make the show, recalls Ross. The Dutch are incredibly confident in the strength of the format, echoes story editor Melanie Graham. One guy told me, the show is so fascinating. Viewers were watch the grass grow. Paul Romer will oversee the launch on behalf of Endemol. He uproots his wife and two children to LA. Joining Paul from the Netherlands is producer Anuska Ben, who will go on to launch Big Brother in 45 countries around the world. Additional Dutch crew members are present at various stages through production. The Dutch are an asset in many ways, especially from a technological standpoint. Designing a set with 24/7 recording capability that can capture every square inch of the living area is a complete or complex task, and less than a year earlier, the blueprint was successfully developed by technical director Nico Rost. There is, however, some micromanaging by the Dutch, all the way down to which two-way glass to use in the house. Endemol didn't trust the US had the right stuff. Brian Hale recounts with a laugh. They forced us to buy their glass and bring it over. The house walls are constructed using tinted two-way glass, so camera people can discreetly capture the day's events on one side while the house guests exist none the wiser on the other. The Dutch are also adamant that the American production adhere to the back to basics theme. They come close to prohibiting the installation of a backyard pool, which they consider a luxury item. American producers push back, noting that Southern California heat can surpass 100 degrees Fahrenheit versus 37 degrees Celsius. This is a battle Ross is thankful he won, as the pool will become a main congregation point for house guests, thus a useful tool for content generation. And we've seen this over all of the seasons up until the current day. Romer is willing to eat crow for his early resistance to compromise. I was completely convinced in my thinking on how you have to produce a show to make it a success, he says. I came there, maybe, as a bit too cocky European producer telling Americans what to do, or the Americans what to do. It's understandable, however, why Endemol doesn't want its formats toyed with. It has so far shown no problems, and and the stakes are so high for its success in the United States. If the show works here, its likelihood of being sold in additional territories around the world increases dramatically. Moreover, even though he's been known to amend other people's formats without permission, interesting and ironic enough, John DeMol is known for rigidity when it comes to his own. Of course, do as I say, not as what I do. That's what I'm grasping from this saying of him, or what is described of him. Producer Matajan Radgiver recalls working on another Endemol creation, The Voice. If anyone wanted a blue stage instead of a red stage, we always said, we can ask John, but we already know the answer is going to be no. It's ridiculous how rigid they were with stupid stuff like that. Douglas returns to Europe in late February 2000 to observe the opening night of the German production. He is accompanied by Don Woman, an early recruit to join Big Brother One's production team. I needed a seasoned pro like Don, says Ross, citing Woman's experience line producing large-scale programming for Dick Clark's productions, like the MTV Video Music Awards and ABC's American Music Awards. A line producer manages logistics, operations, and budgeting. Woman also brings fast connections that prove crucial when putting together a show at breakneck speed. It will normally take 1 year to assemble Big Brother, but Evolution has only 18 weeks. So yeah, this was clearly further detail as to the rushed feeling that I was getting from reading the stuff a bit beforehand. And 18 weeks, that's like 4 to 4.5 months, essentially. Woman enlists Emmy Award-winning technical director Gene Crow to engineer the program. Crow's expertise will prove instrumental as the series progresses. One producer describes Crow as Phoebe's. Sorry, I had to drink my water. I'll repeat that again. One producer describes Crow as BB's super genius secret weapon and credits him with many of the show's early technical developments, many of which are still in use today. While Ross is in Germany, his business partner, Kathleen French, stays behind, scouting possible set locations around LA. When they got back, we rented a passenger van and I took them on a tour. French recalls. Among the options explored is a site near Sunland and Tujunga, situated on the outskirts of the San Fernando Valley, nestled within a vast empty field. However, developing this location would necessitate extensive groundwork, including the installation of sewer lines and other essential utilities. Ultimately, they settle on the CBS Radford lot, home to popular shows like Malcolm in the Middle and That 70s Shows. With its ample space, 24-hour security, and nearby technical support, it emerges as the most practical choice. Looking back, Douglas questions why they even considered other locations, recognizing the inherent advantages of the Radford lot. A single-story, 1,800 square foot house is built by fusing together prefabricated modular homes. The surrounding areas is dotted with green bungalows containing production offices, entertaining suites, and catering facilities for the show's round-the-clock crew. This 10 million compound takes 10 weeks to build and sits on the same spot where the iconic lagoon once existed from the popular 1960s comedy series Gilligan's Island. In addition to a small swimming pool for contestants, the backyard includes basic exercise equipment, a washing machine, manual drying ringer, a chicken coop, and a vegetable garden. The house's interior is Spartan, furnished with simple IKEA furniture and bare-bones appliances. The bathroom has a standing shower and small, enclosed toilet, reminiscent of an airplane lavatory. There is only one room in the house where contestants can speak with somebody other than their housemates. It's called the Red Room, deliberately crimson to evoke confession, so this would be what's eventually known as the Diary Room. Story editors use this room to capture their reactions to daily events, with house guests seated in front of a camera and responding to queries transmitted through an intercom system. BB1 Story Department consists of an A team of writers and producers with experience in the nascent reality genre. Names include Robert Kaplan, Road Rules, Alex Raider, Taxicab Confessions, Melanie Graham, Instant Comedy with the Groundings, and John Crowley, Biography. Collectively, they bring competitive, confessional, and comedic storytelling sensibilities to the series. Finding contestants to participate, however, is not as easy. While Survivor receives 6,000 applicants for its inaugural season, Big Brother receives a little over 1,100. That's very interesting, and I guess this shows the discrepancy between the two shows regarding its casting and why Big Brother tends to, more often than not, recruit more than Survivor, especially in the modern era that we're in during the 2020s. They just trickled in because BP1 assistant Brian Hale, referring to the slow influx of audition tapes mailed in by applicants, turns out as equally disappointing at open casting calls. Only one person showed up to the audition in Salt Lake City. What the? Wow, that's crazy. Adding to the challenge is growing tensions between CBS and Endemol. The Dutch company insists on leading the casting process, leaving the network sidelined. You can imagine all those people hated me and wanted me to fail, says Romer. Romer seeks to cultivate a family atmosphere. Do they know what show they... That was a dumb idea. Anyways, the essence of the Dutch series lies in observing whether contestants can form a sense of community while navigating the challenges of isolation. So we can clearly see why this ended up failing, because Endemol wanted this to be family friendly and all about community, where Big Brother wanted the opposite. They wanted conflict, controversy, and they wanted more, I don't want to say ratchetry, but they wanted more messiness. He looks for individuals in transition, those in the midst of career or life changes, or simply yearning for a temporary escape. Among his discoveries are a mother of four seeking reprieve from domestic responsibilities, a UN diplomat on sabbatical, and an exotic dancer aiming to exit the industry. Romer emphasizes that fostering a family-like environment enhances the show's appeal across demographics relating to age. This approach proved successful in Europe. However, some at CBS expressed reservations, feeling that Romer's cast lacks enough competitive edge or dynamic personalities. Remember this point, since it will show the huge issue with Big Brother 1 and why the changes were made for Big Brother 2. And it shows the difference in audiences regarding Europe and the Americas. I thought we had a good cast. They thought it was a shit cast, says Romer. During a presentation of some 20 semi-finalists, Les Moonves rebukes Romer's selections. Romer claims this was a power play by Moonves, which, knowing him, or his reputation now, that wouldn't be a surprise. But Moonves could sense the disappointment amongst his in-house casting team. Even though Romer believes his first choices are superior, he takes Moonves' feedback into consideration and axes some of his initial picks. An equally important casting decision is the show's permanent host. In the early 2000, up-and-coming newswoman Julie Chen receives an unexpected call. On the line is Dina Katz, a CBS casting agent and Hollywood interlocutor. Hopefully I said that quickly. Years later, Katz will encourage the Kardashian family to start their own reality show. Great! Chen doesn't know how Cass got her cell phone, and she's left dumbstruck by the proposition. Chen is informed that she is a top contender to host Big Brother. Following this brief conversation, Chen is summoned to meet with her new CBS News boss, Andrew Hayward. Hayward informs her that a schedule has already been arranged. She will fly back for 10 weeks to do both jobs, CBS News in New York and Big Brother in Los Angeles. Julie tries to politely decline, but quickly learns that it's not an offer, it's an order, and refusing could be seen as insubordination. I had dreams of being a 60 Minutes correspondent, Chen says. I had a suspicion that taking a reality show might prevent me from ever being considered. Leaving CBS is not an option either. She is only 5 months into a 3 year contract. Born to first generation Chinese immigrants, Julie begins her career with no established connections. She starts from the bottom, answering switchboards and copying faxes, slowly working her way up the corporate ladder. She's eventually promoted, becoming an on air reporter for a local station in Dayton, Ohio. It's here where her smooth and sophisticated delivery catches the attention of CBS executives, who handpicked Chen to join the network's flagship morning news program, The Early Show, where she will read the day's news alongside Jane Clayson and celebrated anchorman Brian Gumbo. Just as her career trajectory is on the rise, Julie receives the call to host Big Brother, setting her on a new path that will profoundly shape her life and career. She is officially revealed as the host in mid-June 2000. The press speculated her hiring is to boost the early show's ratings, regularly placing third to NBC's Today and ABC's Good Morning America. Moonves dispels this suggestion, though honestly it kind of makes sense when you really think it through. The biggest factor is his decision was the successful candidate's reputability. I felt we needed a news person to give the show more gravitas, he says. Indeed, it is veteran TV journalist Meredith Vieira, co-host of The View, who's first approached for the job, but declines. Other names rumored to have been pitched for consideration includes CNN's first anchorwoman Kathleen Sullivan and young broadcast dynamo named Anderson Cooper. Very interesting that he was an option for this. I don't really see how it would have thrived with him on it. BB1 producer John Kalish recalls a meeting with the CBS talent department in which at least one staffer is unfamiliar with Cooper. Addison, who? They probe. Cooper will go on to host ABC's The Mall the following year before becoming a cable news mainstay. Some at CBS News contend that Chen's presence on a reality show will further blur the line between news and entertainment. Network brass consult traditionalists within the news division, including Dan Ratner, to gauge the overall temperature. Most are okay with Chen's assignment, but not everyone. The most vocal critic is the infamously surly Andy Rooney, one of the first American journalists to visit Nazi concentration camps during World War II. This is a major jolt for Chen. I was under very minimal press, if any, she explains. It felt like my career is doomed. Chen grew up watching and admiring Rooney. Now he's lambasting her in the mainstream press. Rooney isn't alone in this belief. Jeffrey Zucker, executive producer of NBC's Today, also takes aim. It's not something we would let our folks at NBC do, he says to reporters. Ultimately, Chen receives the only blessings that truly matter, the approval of top CBS executives. So, with a host, cast, and house is now in place, Big Brother 1 is almost set to air. And it's interesting because I'm recording this a day after Marcellus, yes, Marcellus Reynolds, was on a podcast and he pretty much rips into Julie, stating that how she shouldn't have gotten the job for hosting Big Brother since she wasn't qualified. She was mainly a news person, and he stated that her ties to Les Moonves is why she got it. So it's very interesting that I'm reading this a day after I saw that clip. CBS bumps the premiere ahead by one day to piggyback on Survivor's success. Makes sense marketability and business wise. The casting series is scoring enormous ratings. Its third episode draws 22 million viewers, more than all of the other broadcast networks combined in its time slot. Midway through the season, Survivor is commanding 600,000 for each 30-second ad on its August finale. By comparison, CBS's most expensive show the year prior, Everybody Loves Raymond, fetches 312 million for the same 30-second ad. Survivor has become a runaway hit, and critics immediately begin to project the same outlook onto Big Brother. Even Les Moonves imposes extravagant expectations. We're enjoying our best summer in many years, he boasts to reporters. Now add to it Big Brother, which could be even bigger. Douglas Ross feels a bit more trepidatious. There are parts of the format that he wants to change. Every fortnight, House gets privately nominates two others for banishment. The top vote getters are then put to a public telephone vote to decide who stays and who goes. House activity is presented linearly with minimal editing, a style unfamiliar to American audiences. Ross tries to amend some minor elements, like how the house is decorated and the literary nature of the competitions, but each proposition is a non-starter. I remember John DeMol saying to me, "We have a perfect format. You have to make it like this." July 5th, 2000, which I believe is when Big Brother 1 aired. Scripted for the premiere, a motorcade of police escorted white SUVs drives 10 unknown Americans to the Big Brother set. A perky Julie Chen with perfectly coiffed black hair, wearing a tangerine blouse and a matching skirt, is front and center. "It looks like mission control in here," says the 30-year-old host, standing in the control room in front of the 28 monitors, each displaying a different angle within the house. There's absolutely no place to hide. The frantic pace of live television is felt as she quickly greets the contestants as they emerge from their SUVs. She shakes their hands and ushers them towards the front door. It's an emotional scene as Haskins bid their final farewells to family and friends who line each side of a pathway leading inside. There are lots of hugs, tears, and photos snapped on Kodak disposables before Chen directs them to proceed inside. Big Brother has just begun, she announces as the front door closes behind them. Behind the scenes, John DeMol is on edge. Pacing around the green room, he seeks assurance from anyone and everyone, including production assistant Brian Hare. DeMol asks if he thinks the show will work in America. He was pensive and nervous. You could see the stress on him. Hale remembers. In the early 2000s, TV critics showed little mercy towards reality TV, branding the genre as cheap, lowbrow entertainment. As the series saturates the airwaves, so do the attacks. Even before the premiere, one writer candidly confesses, "It's tempting to pounce on Big Brother and all it stands for, like a lion on a wounded gazelle, sinks your teeth in and starts ripping flesh from the bone." Following the first episode, the hostility only intensifies. The most significant thing I can say about last night's premiere is that I didn't pull my own skin off while watching it, laments one critic. Another disdainfully remarks the show has all the drama and tensions of a Somnic commercial. Even Regis Philbin chimes in. "Come on!" CBS founder Bill Pasley is spinning in his grave, he says on the July 6th episode on Live with Regis and Kathy Lee. Philbin's saltiness likely because Millionaire has by now taken a backseat to Survivor and is facing increasing competition from over 200 reality formats currently being pitched to networks. Critics are equally hard on Julie Chen. One publication says she's been reduced to the dignity level of an anchor on hard copy. Her rapid transition from a serious news reporter to the host of a quirky Herman experiment show is lamented by many, from television critics to fellow journalists. She leans on her sister for encouragement, whose sense of humor provides levity in its time of uncertainty. Despite the noise, however, Big Brother 1 is not a ratings failure. It levels out at an average of 9 million viewers across the 70-episode series. This performance surpasses the network's performance its in the same time slots in previous years. CBS even adds additional episodes of programming for a total of 6 weekly episodes. It is true, however, the show does not attract the same hype as its European twins. Paul Romer contends that there isn't a single worldwide example of two worldwide hits occurring at the same time in the same market. In summer 2000, that coveted spot is occupied by Survivor. It's easy to see why anyone measuring success through this lens would be disappointed. One producer recalls Len Movis entering the control room following BB1's premiere. "That was the worst hour of television I've ever been associated with in my entire career," he is overheard saying. It is not immediately clear why Big Brother doesn't take off in the United States in the same way that it does in the Netherlands, Germany, and Spain. One writer hypothesizes, at a time when their national identities are being slowly blurred, Europeans cling to evidence of their cultural specificity. America, the epicenter of global popular culture, is perhaps already accustomed to the production of local, overnight celebrity. The inspiration for Big Brother, Arizona's Biospherians, and Jennifer Ringley's Jenny Cam did originate here after all. Just as Romer sought to achieve through casting, a family dynamic quickly forms amongst the house guests. But Will Mega, a 27-year-old black man from Philly, is eager to upset this narrative. In the pre-screening candidates, CBS and Endemol failed to uncover his association with the new Black Panther Party for Self-Defense, an organization that calls openly for violence against white people and Jews. What a complete utter mess. So the back records were crappy from even back then. This makes international headlines. As tensions rise within the house, Mecca becomes the first contestant nominated for banishment by his fellow housemates. House guests sit down for dinner following nominations. You can see the gears turning in his head as he chews with a grin. I'm surprised the more of you don't pray before dinner. He wants discomfort, and he's getting it. Pass the salt and pepper, please, someone asks. There's silence amongst the table. Nothing but the sound of chewing and clinking cutlery. Clink, clink! The pinnacle of Mika's time on the show occurs when he sabotages a challenge and costs the house a portion of its weekly grocery allowance. He doesn't fit in, nor does he want to. They're boring as fuck. They, the fucking Brady bunch, he says in the backyard to his housemate. Micah is banished from the game with a 73% of the public vote. Votes for banishment are cast by calling a 1-900 number for a .99 fee. Micah's exit became the trend of Big Brother 1's most wayward house guests receiving an early boot. The second banished is a former exotic dancer who inspires a campaign by David Letterman to quote unquote save the stripper, which I find so hilarious and so ridiculous. She is the only contestant invited to appear on a late night show. Anybody who stuck their head above the parapet got voted out, says Big Brother 1 producer Chris Lowy. We ended up with lovely people, but not that interesting, to be honest. Minutes after Jordan's exit, the remaining house guests form a group hug. We get along so well, one of them says, officially signaling the series' death knell. CBS continues to recognize the need for adjustments, but Endemol is unwilling to release its grasp. Caught in the middle of these disputes are executive producers Douglas Ross and Paul Romer. In one instance, Ross is tasked with relaying a CBS concern to John Demol, who responds in his gravely smoker's voice, You tell Les to go fuck himself. Endemol's Paul Romer is also caught in the crossfire, but he is not walking the same tightrope as Ross. Romer's allegiance is exclusively to his friend and boss, with whom he co-created the Big Brother format with. The Dutch disagree with how CBS is what the fuck am I saying? Sorry. The Dutch is disagreeing with how CBS is exercising its standards and practices (SMP) authority, aka the appropriateness of consent for the appropriateness of content for broadcasting. Although Endemol wields a lot of control over the series, the network has the final say on all SMP matters. According to Romer, CBS is averse to airing chatter about sex and race. In Europe, those controversies drive the show, he explains. Romer is prevented from including dialogue between Will Mega and Cassandra, the sole black contestants. They had beautiful conversations, real life conversations about racial issues. It was not allowed to use I was not allowed to use those in the show, which is very interesting because I feel like they still kind of do this today, but the ones that they do show on the more recent seasons, they show it in a more performative manner to either absolve blame for the studio or to revamp problematic house guests, if that makes sense. Ross agrees with Romer's assessment, recalling an instance in which a contestant revealed a little bit of their butt crack. Glenn Maynard, CBS executive in charge of production, phones Moonves, who asks how much butt crack is showing. I don't know, 1.5 inches. Maynard answers, well, that's half an inch too much. Cut it out, Moonves demands. And it's interesting he's saying all of this, knowing all of his behind-the-scenes mess with several of the women at CBS. Another factor contributing to the lack of engaging content is the strict sleeping schedule imposed on house guests who are sent to bed at midnight. That was completely led by Money for Count's story editor Frank Redwald. They wanted a skeletal crew from midnight to 6 a.m., which I guess that makes sense for them. In subsequent seasons, it becomes apparent that much of the most dramatic content occurs during the wee hours. This realization leads to the creation of Big Brother After Dark in 2007, a live evening broadcast on cable's Showtime 2. People plods along at a glacial pace for several weeks until the September finale, when Julie sneaks through the control room and into the house, clutching an envelope. She reads out the results. The winner is Eddie, a 21-year-old cancer survivor and wheelchair basketball player. Despite his sympathetic backstory, it's revealed that his parents had placed a lien on the family home to cover his medical treatments. A quiet poll is conducted behind the scenes. Surprisingly, Eddie emerges as both the most and least desired contestant to win. Had viewers been given the opportunity to vote non-affirmatively as they did for weekly banishments, it is likely that Eddie might have ended up in third place. For all the uncertainty, negative press, and personality clashes, Big Brother 1 wraps with satisfactory ratings, but cancellation remains seriously on the table. CBS ultimately decides that it's worth another shot, but with a big caveat. The network insists on developing a new adaptation of the show tailored specifically for the American market. Furthermore, Endemol must relinquish total creative control to CBS. Douglas Ross, early to recognize and express the need for format alterations, expects to continue with the series. His team is already brainstorming ideas for a potential second season. However, his hopes are dashed when Gen Maynard invites him for lunch following the finale. Gen said, "We have to show advertisers and the owned and operated stations that we're making a clean, creative break," recalls Ross. And in an instance, Douglas and his company are out. Unlike the NAPT when John DeMol had his pick of the litter, the tables have turned in CBS's favor. Without a second season pickup in the US, his goal of selling his format around the world would be seriously hampered. DeMol acquiesces to CBS's demand and will have zero involvement in Big Brother 2. In lieu of participation, Endemol will receive an annual licensing check. Following Big Brother 1, Endemol is still a hot commodity in Hollywood. He receives an enticing offer from NBC, a put pilot deal, which requires the network to air at least one episode of Endemol programming. Impressed by Douglas Ross's work, he is once again enlisted to launch a second Endemol import. The show, now a Neverland, is rebranded by Ross and titled Fear Factor. It becomes a massive success for NBC. As Fear Factor takes off in '01, Endemol sets its sights on expanding operations into the United States. The mall approaches Ross with an offer of $1.6 million for his company and production catalog. It was a lot of money, but in television, it's no money, says Ross. I was really insulted. Buying a majority stake in the local production companies is a common strategy employed by Endemol in global territories. Ross turns down the offer. However, in a gesture of goodwill, he allows Endemol to utilize his headquarters to launch its American division. Little does he know, this will come back to bite him swiftly. Once Endemol gets his own feet, Ross is abruptly cut out of Fear Factor. To add insult to injury, they poach several of his staff, offering them deals he cannot compete with. Moving forward, Endemol's American productions will be produced under the Endemol USA banner, giving rise to shows like Deal or No Deal, Wipeout, and The Voice. In the course of 18 to 20 months, I built Big Brother at Fear Factor at the expense of developing my own programming. Ross reflects, recalling the turbulent period during which his company nearly goes out of business. It was really embarrassing, but getting kicked in the nuts like that repeatedly really toughens you up. I became a better business person and learned how to fight for myself and my production company. Forced to downsize operations, Ross scrambles to develop original programming to keep his company afloat. The turning point for Evolution comes with the success of ABC Family's Switched, which features teenagers swapping lives. This is the first ever swap show, and it leads to a primetime version called Switched Up, featuring adults. Switched aired for 75 episodes across 2 seasons, paving the way for more feature successes like TLC's Clean Sweep that ran from 2003 to 2005, and 10 Years Younger, which ran from 2004 to 2009. By 2024, Ross has over 70 credits to his name. Most of them you've never heard of, he says modestly, but fortunately, there were a few that really broke out. Some of his most popular include Ease, Botched, and Bowels from the Rules. Very interesting, I never knew that. But it shows how so many of these shows have underlying ties to one another via their producers and executives that the average person who watches them don't even know about. In 2007, following a tumultuous first season of The Real Housewives of Orange County, Ross is hired to refine the series for Bravo. He and his team will create the Bible for the franchise, a comprehensive guide on producing the show that set the standard for future editions nationwide. Ross will also later launch the widely popular Beverly Hills version or edition. After 3 decades in the entertainment industry, he sells his company in 2017 to Metro Goldwyn Mayer (MGM) for an undisclosed sum rumored to be in the mid-eight figures, considerably more than Endemol's 2001 offer. Big Brother 2 is announced in late February 2001 with 2 new production companies vying for the top spot. So this check they pretty much broke down why Big Brother 1 didn't turn out the way that both parties expected it to. There was a lack of understanding by Endemol on how the American market really works, and it was just a class version regarding the European vision and the American vision and why the Big Brother cast also didn't work. So this was very interesting to look over.